Jeff is not joining us tonight.
He wasn't sending anyone else.
That was not.
Okay.
We're not planning on that.
All right, 6 o'clock. Ready, Albert? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're calling this special meeting of the West Valley Water District Board of Directors to order. It is 6 p.m. On Thursday, January 11th. We'll start with the roll call of board members.
Thank you. Director Garcia?
Present.
Director Hawkins?
Present.
Director Moore?
Present.
Vice President Jenkins?
Present.
President Young?
Present.
Thank you. All are present.
Okay, we're going to skip the normal formalities, but we will need to do a public participation. Madam Clerk?
Thank you. Members of the public may participate and give public comment in one of 4 ways. In person at West Valley Water District's Administrative Boardroom, via telephone by calling 888-475-4499, access code 840-293-7790, via Zoom at access code 840-293-7790, or via email at administration@wvwd.org.
All right, have we received any requests for public participation?
None in person, email, and no participants on Zoom.
Okay, all right. Seeing no requests to speak, we'll go ahead and close public participation. And that'll take us into tonight's discussion item. Mr. General Manager?
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. And thanks to the board for your extra time this evening. And thanks to our 3 final candidates for our federal lobbying services, Turch, Townsend, Carpy, and Clay. Next, Socorro, can you add some detail and describe the process tonight and handle our introductions, please?
Good evening, Board of Directors. West Valley Water District, WVOD remains committed to engaging with legislators and key stakeholders on legislative advocacy and identifying funding opportunities. WVOD currently contracts with federal lobbyists to assist the district in advocating for the development of policies, appropriations, and grant requests. Our current lobbying contract for federal services is set to expire in March 2024. In compliance with West Valley Water District's purchasing policy, staff shared a request for proposals, RFP, for interested firms. The RFP process provides transparency and accountability in adhering to a structured evaluation process that is fair, open, and well documented. The RFP proposal was released on October 23rd, 2023, and a total of 5 firms that provided federal lobbying services submitted proposals. On December 4, 2023, interviews with all responding firms were conducted with an internal panel comprised of WVD executive management and an external panel of local water district government affairs managers that utilize lobbying services. The evaluation panels assess each firm based on their expertise, experience, proposed strategies, and alignment with district's goals. The top 3 firms were presented to the External Affairs Committee and referred to the Board of Directors for a special workshop. Today's workshop will serve as an opportunity for the top 3 federal candidates to be interviewed by the board. The purpose of the workshop is to allow board members to interact directly with the firm's representatives, gain understanding of their expertise, and evaluate their capability to meet our organization's advocacy, appropriations, and grant funding needs. Tonight's process is as follows: 30-minute interviews, 10-minute introduction of firm and services, 15 minutes of questions from board directors. The schedule allows each board director to ask 1 question, and there'll be a 5-minute wrap-up. We do have a timer in front of the dais to ensure we stay on time, as we do have multiple firms interviewing this evening, and to be considerate of their time and yours. At the end of the interviews, directors have ranking sheets to assist in the discussion and selection process. That concludes my introduction.
Thank you. You ready to get started?
All right. Does the board have any questions on that process before we get started? All right, we'll take up our David Tersh and Associates then.
Mr. President, members of the board, it's always good to be here. It's good to be in California compared to Washington these days. I know we have limited time, so let me get to the point quickly. We are a 3-decades-old firm. As you well know, we have offices directly in a building on Capitol Hill, giving us immediate access when we need it to members of both the House and the Senate. Over the client base that has extended from Japan to the EU, from Oregon to California, and we are a dominant firm in California. I'll get back to the client to you in a minute. As Californians, we've lost a great deal of influence really in just the past few weeks. Senator Feinstein's no longer with us. Speaker Pelosi is no longer Speaker. Speaker McCarthy is no longer Speaker. You, however, are fortunate in having up-and-coming and very influential members locally, with Torres, Aguilar, and a little bit more removed from from our Republican friends close by. I would make the point that we're not a nonpartisan firm, but we are a bipartisan firm. And let me get back to the whole business of the client base. Because we have a base across the U.S., it gives us access to people who will decide some of the issues that you bring to Washington, even though they're not Californians. They can be from Montana, Minnesota, Michigan, Maine, Maryland, Mississippi. We already have a base with those people. We know who they are. We work with them. I would say that we're an innovative company. Let me give you 2 examples that are not directly related to water. In the first one, the airport, which is virtually adjacent to this property, was closed. It is the only time in the history of the United States that Congress ordered an airport to be closed. When Ontario wanted to separate from Los Angeles World Airports, that demanded an exchange of funds up to $240 million, and that exchange was specifically forbidden by statute. In an era when earmarks were not permitted, we had the statute changed, essentially getting an earmark. Right. We would continue to do that kind of work for you when you have a difficult problem. We're not thinking necessarily laterally. We're just looking for how to solve the problem and for whatever it takes to get the job done that you're asking. I will say in the half-decade of our successful relationship with you, we have never increased the fees, even though inflation, I can tell you with my flight out today, airfare alone has increased 2 and 3 and 4 times. The fees, and the fees are all encompassing. So we've never billed you for, and we don't bill you for any phone calls, we don't bill you for travel, we don't bill you for anything. And correspondingly, it's an all-encompassing fee. We're specialists in the area. We are really good at what we do, but we are your advocates with the federal government in Washington and the regions as they relate to you directly. We don't do a lot of ancillary things. And the way I describe that, I think, most succinctly is that, you know, you don't hire a plumber to do the electric wiring in your house, and you don't hire an electrician to clean out your sinks. Mm-hmm. We're specialists in the area, and we're really good at what we do. Let me say that getting to the specifics, this has been, for us, a very successful relationship. It's been very successful for you. You've gotten a good return on your money, if it's no more than dollars, in the millions of dollars. And let me have Mr. Jones, one of our senior account people, in fact, the most senior account person, he's almost as old as I, tell you about the specifics. Jamie?
Mr. President and board members, thank you for the opportunity to be here tonight and to see all of you here. As David mentioned, since we've been working for the district in 2018, we've been engaged in advancing your agenda and promoting your interest in Washington, D.C. with members of Congress, with committees, and with agencies across the board, from agencies that have direct connections and jurisdiction oversight over water, as well as other agencies that have an interest in other things that you do, such as the Department of Labor regarding the apprenticeship program. We've even looked at the National Endowment of the Arts for your Earth Day as a way of subsidizing this. So we're not, we're trying to be as innovative as possible in finding sources of funding to subsidize your operations, be it for water or for other ancillary activities that benefit the quality of life for your ratepayers and advance and promote your interest. More specifically, when we began working for the district, one of the issues that came up was a Bureau of Reclamation Water Smart grant program. You guys had secured $300,000 for a small-scale water grant to do turf replacement, and there was an interest on your part to modify that grant. So we engaged in that. I know that the president was engaged in that back in 2018, and we had meetings with the Bureau of Reclamation in Washington. We followed up with meetings and discussions with the Bureau of Reclamation's Temecula office, and the outcome was that you were able to modify that and use it for irrigation purposes as well. So that was a success. Another issue that we were engaged with was the IE Works. We worked with district staff and in securing congressional support from Feinstein and from Padilla and from other members, and you were able to secure $1 million seed money for IE Works, and that's something that's my understanding is that you've had apprenticeships, and that's been very successful. We were engaged in for a couple of years in 2018, 2019, 2020. We worked with EPA and your staff and your board members in looking at how to fund the expansion of the Romer facility. And we were looking at different funding streams, and one of them was WIFIA, which is a loan program under EPA. And you actually engaged, we met with program directors and managers from EPA, discussed this. We had a number of calls with them, both out in Washington and out here, and went through the process. You guys submitted a letter of interest, which was approved by EPA, which made you eligible to apply for the loan. And essentially that was the gateway of getting funding. You ultimately made a decision not to pursue that, but that was certainly an option that was available to the board. We have, working again with the board members and your staff, worked with Representative Torres and secured $2 million for the Bloomington Alleyway Pipeline Project. And that was what they call community project funding, but otherwise known as an earmark. They don't call them earmarks anymore, but that's certainly in the vernacular of what we call them. And we have been working with EPA to get those out to you. We also have been working with Pete Aguilar on the FY24 appropriations process, which are being completed as we speak. They expect to pass a short-term, another CR probably to the beginning of March, but they fully expect to complete the appropriations process for the fiscal year, and we certainly expect to have the earmarks included in that. And there are 2 earmarks there that Congressman Aguilar has secured for you. Keep in mind that each member of the House can only submit 15 projects to the Appropriations Committee, and Congressman Aguilar picked 2 of those 15 projects for the district. And that's a testament to you and to your staff. And there's a lot of work that goes into that. So you have money for the Bunker Hills Wells project, a little less than $1 million. And then we have a generator project for $525,000. So we expect that to come through in the next month or two. That'll be certainly good news. So we have accomplished, I think, quite a bit. There are other issues. I know they're a little more, 35 seconds, I'll try and do this. EPA, we worked with the district, your staff, and Congress, members of your delegation to get a global agreement between Colton, Rialto, West Valley Water District, and Region 9 to pump and treat perchlorate at the site, at the toe of the plume in Colton. You have a facility across from the Rialto High School in San Bernardino City, and that's where that's going to take place. That was an agreement that was reached between your staff and the other parties, and we were engaged in that.
Well, great. Well, thank you, David, Jamie, for trying to summarize 5 years into 10 minutes. So I will lead us off with the first questions. So the first question that I have for you and David is, what specific experience... sorry. You had a question? Or? Well, we're each doing our own questions, but they wanted me to lead off, remember?
You're going to ask the same question 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah. Sorry about that. Yeah, so what specific experience does your firm have in lobbying for water districts at the federal level? If you can maybe elaborate on that.
Thank you for that question. We work with a number of agencies that have water interest in the region. One of them is Rialto. We were one of the... we started with this whole perchlorate issue in 2003, 2004, 2005. We worked with the Department of Defense and EPA. In fact, your bioremediation plant has some federal funding in it. And that's because, and I know the president knows about this since he visited the Environmental Security Technology Certification Program, which has a very strong security process protocol to get in. But we worked with them to get funding directly for perchlorate. And then down the road, we worked on getting the issue becoming a Superfund site. And we also work with Chino that has water issues. We work with Beverly Hills that has water issues. We work with the city of Temecula that works with the Riverside Flood Control Project on the Marietta Flood Control Creek Project, Flood Control Project. And we work with Calamasa. We've worked with Beaumont on some water issues. So we have quite a bit.
The list can go on and on, but let me interject and to tell you that what we do is we make things happen for you. And you understand water issues, and we're working closely with your staff, and that's a point I'd like to make very directly. We know our business of getting things done in Washington very well. We take direction from you, and we expect you will know your business as well as we know ours.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. Director Garcia?
Hello. My question is, how do you plan to address potential disparities in water access and quality, particularly in marginalized communities?
Well, one of the issues is to secure, to at least explore different funding streams from agencies. One of them is the EPA has an Environmental Justice Community Program that's targeted specifically for disadvantaged communities. The Bipartisan Infrastructure Law has some funding streams and grants specifically designed and targeted to address equity issues. There is the Inflation Reduction Act, another major funding proposal passed by Congress and enacted into law that has some funding. We've been sharing those funding streams with your staff. My recommendation to your staff has been that you cannot apply for everything. So we need to be very, very targeted about what it is that you want to throw some of your resources and devote your resources to chasing down and securing the funds. So there's a lot out there. We have been sharing this information, and I think that it's just an issue of when you want to and under what circumstance you want to be able to apply for these grants.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Vice President Jenkins?
Hello. What strategies do you implement for educating lawmakers about the importance of the Water District's projects?
If I may, David, we basically, one of the things we talk to members, we talk to their staffs, we talk to their district staffs. We want to get them engaged as much as possible with what you do on a day in and day out issues. We encourage to have staff members come out and visit your facilities. Having you come out, board members come out to Washington is critically important. Members, electeds like to talk to electeds. It's very important you guys speak on behalf of the district. You are the decision makers, and they want to hear directly from you. So it's that part. It's also an ongoing conversation. When you come to Washington, it's just not a one-shot deal. We want that to be an ongoing conversation, not just back in Washington, but back here at home.
And if you were asking about the specifics, the answer is we work with you and with staff in particular to develop your material ahead of time. There are no surprises in Washington. We don't like them, you don't like them. And correspondingly, all of this paperwork is submitted to the offices ahead of time. It makes for meaningful meetings when you're there. They know why you're there. They've been prepped. And then you can have a conversation that really leads to a solution to your problems as opposed to how good fishing's going to be next Tuesday.
Thank you.
Okay. Director Moore?
Good evening. All right. What steps will you take to build a diverse coalition of supporters for the Water District's DEI initiatives?
Thank you for that question. We do a number of things. Besides working directly on your behalf with members of Congress, your delegation, as well as with agencies, we'll work in sync with the U.S. Conference of Mayors. They have a water council. And if there's some commonalities, we will work with them on that. There's the ACWA is engaged in policy issues. We work with them. The American Water Works Association. We'll work with them. We will follow and monitor what national organizations are doing on water. And when there's some common interest in issues that it could be regulatory, it could be legislative, it could be funding, programmatic funding, that would help water agencies, not only your district, but others in the region. We work with other stakeholders, other water purveyors in the region. We will coordinate with them if need be on your behalf. So it's coordinated. We obviously our utmost interest is to promote your interest in Washington, but we'll do that in sync with other entities if that makes sense and advances your agenda.
All right. Director Hawkins?
Thank you for joining us this evening. How do you adapt your lobbying strategies to changes in political landscapes and priorities?
Oh, I think I began to cover that a little bit earlier. We have friends on both sides of the aisle. So we would be, for instance, I will tell you that the Ontario, when we had essentially the earmark to allow the Ontario airport to separate out of Ottawa, that was an exercise that involved Grace Napolitano from Los Angeles as well as Ken Calvert closer here to the district. It's the kind of thing that we do. Your issues are not very ideological. You're not really into the cultural issues as a district. That's not where you live. You're here to do good things on the part of people in this community, and you're providing a real service for them. That's not ideological, and it's not political, and it makes it much easier for us to sell it in Washington because it's just good government, it's good community effort, and it's good for them. And there's really no downside. What I can assure you is, as I said earlier in my introductory remarks, it's not that we're nonpartisan, but we are bipartisan. We support people on both sides of the aisle. There are very good friends, and there are lots of occasions, and as a specific example, that would not have happened without the bipartisan interest of both parties.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. So we'll give you the kind of the wrap-up 5-minute questions. So feel free to use your 5 minutes to answer this question, and that is, why should West Valley Water District select your firm?
Simply because we're the best you can get. Oh, wait, I have 4 minutes and 53 seconds to go. I thought I answered that pretty well. The answer is because this has been a good partnership, because we understand the area, we understand the state, we understand how the federal government works. We performed for you in the past, and it's been a successful relationship. We're working on a whole number of projects right now that are in the middle of the projects. You don't kind of change the horse in midstream, or at least not if you're a good rider and you don't want to drown. So the answer is, we've done a good job for you. We're really looking forward to a continuing relationship, and you're important to us. You matter. You matter to me. It's why I came out here. My being in California, other than I love to be here, is to be with you this evening. Took a plane out, got into Ontario early this afternoon. I'll be going right back to Washington in the morning. I hate to give up 3 minutes and 50 seconds. You've heard of filibuster, and I'm from Washington. I could use that just to say my name, but the answer is this has been a really good relationship for us and for you. We've produced, you've gotten a good return on your investment. We'd like to continue it. And I'll reiterate again, we're the best you can get.
All right. Well, thank you so much, gentlemen. We sure do appreciate your interest in serving the district and being here this evening, and thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. So we can tally up your sheets if you need to, and we'll get ready for the next one. We're just going to, as soon as you all are ready, we'll just go ahead and go right into the next one, because we're about 15 minutes ahead of schedule. Okay. Yeah. So if everybody's ready. Yep. All right. If we can have Townsend Public Affairs come on up. And before we get started, if you'd be nice enough to maybe introduce yourselves for the board.
Of course, thank you. President, I'm Corey Takinen, Vice President at Townsend Public Affairs. I'm here with two of my colleagues that will introduce themselves a little bit further. Ben Goldine, our Federal Advocacy Manager out of our DC office, and James Lytle, our Federal Legislative Analyst, also out of our Washington, DC office.
Okay. All right.
Is there a clicker, or do I just tell you next slide? Right here? The mouse. Thank you.
Excuse me, can you repeat the names again?
Yes, I'm Corey Takinen, Vice President. We have Ben Goldine, our Federal Advocacy Manager, and James Lytle, our Federal Legislative Analyst.
All right. Whenever you're ready.
Okay, thank you. Board President, members of the board, thank you for giving us the opportunity to be here this evening to present to you. As I mentioned, I'm Corey Talkanen. I'm Vice President with Townsend Public Affairs. I've been at the firm for 13 years, and I'm honored to be here with two of my colleagues from our Washington, D.C. office. I want to take this opportunity to tell you a little bit about our company. If I can go to the next slide. Scroll. Oh, here. I'll just keep talking. Townsend Public Affairs was founded in 1998 by Christopher Townsend with a mission to support organizations that improve our communities. We have represented over 250 public agencies, and over the life of our firm, we have focused on serving public agencies. We are focused on being champions for better communities, and that is our core client base. We are a state advocacy, federal advocacy, and grant writing firm. And we have been providing federal legislative advocacy services for all 25 years of our company's existence. We are the only advocacy firm that specializes in both legislative advocacy and funding advocacy in Sacramento and Washington, D.C., and that provides a distinct advantage for our clients. We know that this interview is for federal advocacy only, but the fact that we have the views of all levels of government, understanding how the federal government, a lot of the funds flow down to the state governments, and understanding all those different layers provide our clients a distinct advantage because we really do have eyes on all levels of government and can use that to our advantage to help advance your policy and your funding priorities. More California public agencies have hired TPA to represent them in Washington, D.C. than any other firm in the nation. We truly have that brand on Capitol Hill as the go-to firm for California public agencies. When we walk into a member's office, when we walk into the White House, when we walk into agencies, they know that we are speaking for their constituents. They know that we are representing their residents back at home, and that brand allows us to represent our clients very successfully in Washington, D.C. And that voice is demonstrated by our success in securing over $447 million and also the 25 years of federal legislative engagement that we have. We are a team of 17 registered federal lobbyists and grant writers, and we maintain 5 offices to serve our clients. We have both Ben and James here that are on the ground in our Washington, D.C. office. I am on the ground in our Southern California office and available to be here. I would say at a moment's notice, but it's probably about an hour with traffic. Anytime that there's a last-minute board meeting, a committee hearing, a strategy session where it would be helpful to have a federal voice, I can be here in person, as well as Ben and James on the ground in Washington, D.C. And we really believe that our team structure and our team approach gives our clients the best of all worlds. You have your dedicated client manager in Washington, D.C., but you also have the strength of a large firm. You have 16 other federal registered lobbyists behind him with relationships, with agency contacts, with experiences that he can draw upon at any time to help benefit the district. And finally, you have the commitment of senior executives, myself, to help develop strategy, engage top-level relationships, and personally ensure that you're getting the customer service that you deserve. And I'm now going to hand it off to Ben to introduce himself and share how we believe we can serve the district.
Thank you, Corey. Good evening, Mr. President, board members. It's wonderful to be here with you tonight from Washington, D.C. As Corey mentioned, I am Ben Goldine, the Federal Advocacy Manager at Townsend Public Affairs, and would be the lead client manager on this engagement with the district. I am a little bit about myself. I'm a California native. I grew up in the San Joaquin Valley, where water issues take center stage in everyday life. I took that practical experience of the importance of water with me to Washington, D.C. when I went to go work for my hometown congressman. I've dedicated my entire career of more than a decade in Washington, D.C., serving the people of California, both on Capitol Hill and now at Townsend Public Affairs. When I was on Capitol Hill, I served as a legislative director for Congressman Jim Costa, a real leader in California water policy. I handled his work on the Natural Resources Committee, including the Water, Oceans, and Wildlife Subcommittee. Working with him helped contribute to passage of the WIN Act in 2016, 3 Water Resources Development Acts, as well as work on water conservation in bills like the Farm Bill and other pieces of legislation. So really, Congressman Costa was a mentor of mine in California water politics, had bringing with me the practical experience, again, from growing up in the San Joaquin Valley, and then implementing that policy in Washington, D.C. Let me talk a little bit about our approach to federal legislative advocacy. Our first step, when we bring on any new client, the first thing we do is conduct a detailed orientation where we meet with directors, meet with at the district to learn all about your CIP, all the ongoing projects, get to know a full scope of the activities you're taking on so that we can identify a comprehensive legislative strategy to advance those priorities. So step 2, we develop that strategy, working hand in hand with staff as an extension of staff to develop a plan of attack to advance your priorities. And then implementing that legislative strategy, we're working with your congressional delegation, relevant committee members and their staffs, bringing you out to Washington, D.C. to advocate on behalf of your priorities, preparing you for those meetings beforehand, making sure that they're valuable uses of your time to advance your priorities and the legislative strategy. And then fourth, that continued follow-up after our outreach. It's leading. It's continuing to lead on issues, advance your issues, and even just doing the basics of lobbying, like filing those reports, making sure all our I's are dotted and T's are crossed. Okay. And as I mentioned, we see ourselves as an extension of staff. We're here to supplement the work you're doing, bring our expertise in federal legislative policy to augment the great work you're already doing and your staff are already doing. So we tailor our approach to our communication to the best way, however you like to communicate, right? We're doing customized weekly updates every Friday, comprehensive written monthly reports, tailor-made to your priorities with updates on what's going on with our legislative strategy that we've put in place. And then, as Corey mentioned, we're able to do in-person presentations as needed, briefings on Capitol Hill to relevant committee staff, be those boots on the ground for you in D.C., advancing your priorities. And then, as wanted from the board and staff, we're there doing recurring check-ins to keep you updated and continue to make sure we have the latest information from staff and the board on what you'd like us to advance in D.C. And finally, one thing I would like to highlight is our work on community project funding over the years. This was something that I had firsthand experience on when I was on Capitol Hill and brought that experience with me to Washington, D.C. and have spearheaded the community project funding process on behalf of our clients in Washington. In total, in 2 years, we've secured nearly $120 million in community project funding requests for our clients, and we have another approximately $60 million pending right now in fiscal year 24 appropriations. We really have thrived in this process to bring much needed resources to our clients, and we think the numbers speak for ourselves. With that, I'd like to turn it over to my colleague, James.
Good evening. I'm James Lytle, our federal legislative analyst. On the screen, you can see the depth of our relationships in Washington, D.C., including with the EPA, the Army Corps of Engineers, and the Bureau of Reclamation. And I would like to highlight advocacy trips. We believe that is a great value for the district board coming out, as we know that you are going to discuss the ACW conference next on your agenda. And we recommend you come. And if you come, we hope that you stay for a day or two to do district-specific meetings. If the district travels to D.C., TPA will handle logistics from picking you up from the airport, ensuring you get the meetings from people that you need on Capitol Hill, ensuring that you get meetings from everybody else that you need in agencies, and ensuring that you leave D.C. with a successful trip. We pride ourselves in putting together a robust advocacy trip agenda and honored to do that for the district to help you advance your federal priorities. And with that being said, I will turn it back to my colleague, Ben, to wrap it up.
Thanks, James. I see we have about 30 seconds left, but I think with that, we're happy to turn those back over to you to answer your questions. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much for that presentation. So we'll lead off with What specific experience does your firm have in lobbying for water districts at a federal level?
Thank you. I'll start with some just historical context and then turn it over to Ben to give some current examples. But big picture, we have 25 years of history. Water is one of the founding issues of our firm, and we were involved in securing some of the initial feed funding for the groundwater replenishment system for Orange County Water District, the world's largest water purification system, as one of the first clients of Townsend Public Affairs. So starting there and then building through the last 25 years, we've represented dozens of water districts and sanitation agencies across the state of California. And Ben's going to provide some current examples of work that we're doing in the water sphere.
Thank you. In our work for the City of Ontario and their municipal utility company, we worked with them to secure a $40.7 million authorization through the 2022 Water Resources Development Act, and that's an authorization for environmental infrastructure, a program run through the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to fund local water projects. In addition to our work for Ontario, we're currently working with the Yorba Linda Water District in Yorba Linda to help secure community project funding. We've secured community project funding for them for each of the last 2 years and have another project pending with them right now for final approval. And so, again, our experience, we've since the beginning of the firm, we've worked with water districts throughout the state, both in Southern California and Northern California, to help advance their projects in D.C.
And if I could just wrap that up by saying it's okay, thank you. Relationships with the Army Corps of Engineers, with Bureau of Reclamation, with the administration. We were just with the LA District Army Corps of Engineers staff a couple weeks ago with Discovery Cube in Los Angeles with Mark Cohen, the operations director. So we have those relationships on the ground and with your Western regional reps that a lot of these agencies have, as well as back in Washington, D.C. on the ground on Capitol Hill on the as well.
All right, thank you. Director Garcia.
How do you plan to address potential disparities in water access and quality, particularly in marginalized communities?
Of course. As part of our onboarding process, right, we would, again, as I mentioned, meet with directors to learn all about the priorities of the district and identify ways to pursue those priorities. So when we're looking at marginalized communities, we would understand that that's a real priority for the district and connect the district with the existing grant programs through the Bureau of Reclamation and also created by the bipartisan infrastructure law. But then we would also make sure that that story is known among your congressional delegation, not just with Norma Torres and Pete Aguilar, but with Senator Padilla and Senator Butler as well. In fact, one thing that came to mind was Senator Padilla in his position as chairman of the Water Subcommittee on Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, is that he has been pushing for a support program for low-income households to pay their water bills. He kind of compares it to the low-income heating program, LIHEAP, where low-income households receive funding for heating. He wants to create a water program like that. So engaging with Senator Padilla's office as he pursues that policy, we can share West Valley Water District's story and the story of your ratepayers and residents and how his action in D.C. would directly benefit the ratepayers here in the West Valley Water District. And so by sharing your story, getting you out there as an example for a leader like Senator Padilla would be one way we could help address that issue.
Thank you.
Vice President Jenkins.
Thank you for being here. My question is, what strategies do you implement for educating lawmakers about the importance of the water district's projects?
So, again, we start with our base of knowledge of the California delegation. As Corey mentioned, we're based here in California, our roots here in California, and because of that, we have close ties with members of Congress from up and down the state, and including here in the Inland Empire. So we use that connection to make sure we are, right off the bat, once we have that orientation, going to offices with, of course, the approval of the client to go and have those introduction meetings. So right off the bat, we're informing the local delegation of the importance of the work that our client is doing. And then it's informing not just the members, but their staff as well about the work the water districts are doing. Often James and I are both former Capitol Hill staffers. We understand the importance of those relationships as well. And many times, Capitol Hill staff are spread a million different ways, right? So sitting down specifically with congressional staff to educate them about what water districts do, the complex issues that they face, is something we prioritize from the get-go, so that they come to us when they have questions about water districts. Like, hey, there's a water district, they have an issue. I know Ben's the guy who talked to me about that. I'll go to him. And then I use that opportunity to share the issues that West Valley's experiencing and continue to build that relationship going forward as someone who can be a resource for them and vice versa.
And if I could quickly add, while the members are critical and we have those member relationships, staff are also very critical. And a lot of times the staff are the ones that are really prioritizing the issues for the member. And the staff are really our peers. I mean, a lot of them are young. They've been on Capitol Hills for 5-6 years. Ben plays baseball with them on the weekends. I mean, we go to dinners with them on the weekends. So we have that friendship as well that allows us to really help elevate our clients' issues and make sure that your voices are being heard at all levels, from staff to the elected official and the member.
Thank you.
All right. Director Moore.
Good evening. What steps will you take to build a diverse coalition of supporters for the water district's DEI initiatives?
I think we would start right here at home with engaging with, I'd propose we start right here at home and engage with Congresswoman Torres, Congressman Aguilar, two members of the House who would be supportive and receptive of your efforts on DEI, and using based on the interactions we have with them, the receptions we get from them, we can build out. Also, we'd want to engage with state and national trade associations as well to learn about the work they're doing in this space. To engage with them, to use the West Valley Water District as an example as a national model in this space. But I really think you have very much a open and receptive delegation here in the Inland Empire to help advance your goals and priorities there, and that's what I'd propose we do.
You also have two senators that are passionate about this issue. We've known Senator Alex Padilla since he was on the LA City Council, from when he was in Sacramento, and then now obviously back in Washington, D.C. When he was Secretary of State, he was on the board of directors for the Discovery Cube Los Angeles, who is a client. The Discovery Cube Orange County is actually the founding client of the firm. So we have a very close relationship with Senator Padilla. DEI issues are a passion of his, and we believe that he could be very involved and really serve as someone to help elevate your profile as well.
And just add one last item there. I had a meeting with Senator Butler around Thanksgiving as well, with the City of Ontario. We were out; they were out in D.C. for meetings. It was clear that she's passionate about these issues, workers' rights, DEI. Every question she was asking came back to how are you improving the lives of everyday people in your communities, and so really channeling that passion she had, as well as the other members we've mentioned so far, I think would be what we recommend to advance your priorities.
Okay, Director Hawkins.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you all for showing up and coming here this evening. It is much appreciated that you would show up in person. I just have one question for you all, and I'm glad you mentioned Senator Butler. Her and her wife were at my wedding, so just so you know. So that relationship is an important relationship for us. How do you adapt your lobbying strategies to changes in political landscapes or priorities?
Definitely. First, I would say the politics in DC can change, but the issues that water districts and local government and just the world in general are dealing with don't stop, right? There needs to be some continuity. There is continuity in world happenings, even if the political landscape changes. And so we take advantage of that fact by being that continuity in DC, right? So let's say we're already expecting more than 40 retirements in the House of Representatives, including some here in inland Southern California. And so, but we remain there. So we're making sure when new staff come in, when new members come in, we're educating them on those issues that are ongoing and becoming that resource for them so that they, so even though maybe the people have changed and the politics have changed, we're there to help push these ongoing priorities forward. And so, again, and I'll also reiterate, the issues that water districts are working on are nonpartisan issues. And so we use that to our advantage, again, by being those experts on what you're doing and what the district's working on to make sure that the new politicians in a new political reality are fully up to speed on what you're doing.
And I think that is one advantage of our firm is that we represent public agencies. So we're really never in a member's office talking about a political issue. We're talking about infrastructure. We're talking about water, streets, parks. It doesn't matter what you believe in. Everybody can get behind that, serving your communities. And that's the voice that we have. That's the brands that we've built. And that's when we walk into offices, they know these are the public agency guys. What can we help you with? Because you're serving our residents that we want to make sure we're serving. Ultimately, I think bottom line, that's why everyone came to Washington in the first place, is to serve their communities. And the members on Capitol Hill and their staffs know that we're hand in hand with them working to serve their communities.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
All right, and then the wrap-up question with 5 minutes. Why should West Valley Water District select your firm?
Why should West Valley Water District select Townsend Public Affairs? We really believe we are champions for better communities. Every single one of us at this company have the heart and DNA to serve our communities. We know that each one of you ran for public office to serve your communities. Almost every single person on our staff started on the public side and came to TPA because they could continue to serve their communities on the private side, which allows them, frankly, to serve more communities up and down the state of California. So we truly believe that we share your hearts, we share your passion. Our entire firm is based on that. If you go to our website, we truly call ourselves Champions for Better Communities. It's who we are, it's what we believe in, and we think that West Valley deserves that advocate. You deserve someone that has the same heart and DNA as you all, walking the halls for you in Washington, D.C. to make sure that your priorities, both legislative and funding, are being represented. Everybody's minds. And the last thing I would say is that, as we mentioned at the beginning, more California public agencies use Townsend Public Affairs in Washington, D.C. than any other firm, and we would love you to be one of them and have the opportunity to represent West Valley Water District.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, and we sure do appreciate you coming out this evening, and especially from DC. And thank you so much for your presentation and your responses.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. And we can do your math. We're just waiting for the next group who are joining us via Zoom to log on. So if you do need to use the bathroom, we probably have a few minutes.
Hi, good evening. This is Laura Morgan Kessler with Carpy and Clay. We are on whenever you're ready.
Okay. All right. Yeah, just give us a minute to get back here.
Sounds good.
All right. Everybody good? Ready to proceed? All right. Okay, well, good evening. Hi, Laura, and is it Shannon?
Shannon.
Shannon, okay.
It's Shannon, yeah.
Shannon, okay.
Hey,
right.
Shannon.
All right, well, good evening, ladies. So we'll go ahead and, again, thank you for joining us for this evening and jumping on a few minutes early, too. So if you look on the boardroom view there, you can kind of see the clock in the middle there. It's a little small probably for you, but you can still hopefully make that out. And you can go ahead and start your introduction.
Great. Thank you so much. Good evening. And we really appreciate the opportunity to be with you virtually this evening. My name is Laura Morgan Kessler, and I'm here with my colleague Shannon Hanna, and we are the team from Carpy and Clay. During our brief presentation, we're going to really focus on two things: who we are and why we believe West Valley Water District should select Carpy and Clay as your federal advocates. So we're going to start by telling you just a little bit about ourselves. I've been with Carpy and Clay since 2018. I am a native Southern Californian. I grew up in Orange County, and as such, I've always had a really strong passion and love for my home state. And as a result of that, I've focused my career, in fact, working on behalf of Californians. So I began my time in Washington, D.C., serving as a legislative staffer for Senator Dianne Feinstein. When I was on her legislative team, my portfolio of issues really centered around a topic of critical importance to Californians, and that's infrastructure. I worked on a wide range of issues, including natural resources, the environment, water, transportation, and energy. Since Capitol, I've spent the last 17 years lobbying on behalf of public entities. Over the course of my career, I've had the true honor to represent more than 40 public entities, mostly in California, including water and wastewater utilities, cities, and counties. During that time, I've helped my clients successfully secure project offers from the Army Corps of Engineers Environmental Infrastructure Program. I've worked with my clients to receive grant awards from the Bureau of Reclamation's various Water Smart programs, as well as the FEMA BRIC program. And I've worked to advocate for increased federal funding for EPA's Clean Water and Drinking Water State Revolving Fund. Additionally, I've helped my clients successfully navigate the return of congressionally directed spending, formerly known as earmarks, and as a result have secured tens of millions in community project funding for these clients. I have strong relationships with several water and wastewater, both state and national associations, including the Association of California Water Agencies, as well as having the honor of being selected during ACWA's 2022 and 2023 Washington, D.C. conference. Outside of the office, I currently serve on the board of directors for Women in Government. And I'm going to let my colleague Shannon tell you a little bit about herself.
Thank you, Laura. My name is Shannon Hanna. I have been with Carpy & Clay for over 3 years after working at 2 different lobbying firms where I represented several local governments, transportation agencies, and public utilities across the country. Prior to joining Carpy & Clay, I played a pivotal role as a part of the in-house lobbying teams at 2 premier national trade associations. While at those organizations, I championed the causes of various public entities focusing on critical infrastructure issues. My career began on Capitol Hill, where I served as a key staff member to the chair of the Senate Commerce, Science, and Transportation Committee. In this role, I assisted in drafting legislation pertaining to infrastructure across all modes, including water. And with my connections across the federal government, I bring decades of experience to the table and specializing in addressing legislative and regulatory challenges faced by local governments. And additionally, I'm also honored to serve as a member of the board of directors for Women in Government Relations. Our organization is dedicated to advancing and empowering women within the realm of government relations. Now I'll turn it back to Laura.
Thank you, Shannon. So now that you've had a chance to hear a little bit more about us, I want to tell you why we believe West Valley Water District should select Carpy & Clay as your federal advocates here in DC. So first of all, we use what we call a principles-only approach. Shannon and I would be responsible for handling all aspects of your contract. We would be the ones doing the work on your behalf day in and day out. We do not pass work off to associates or junior staff. We really believe this unique approach of being directly accountable is the best way to serve our clients. We deliver results, whether it's obtaining federal funding or securing legislative language or even influencing federal agency regulatory actions. We have a strong record of accomplishment on behalf of our clients. Over the past 2 federal fiscal years, our firm collectively has secured over $100 million in community project request funding for our clients. Additionally, we've worked to help our clients successfully receive federal funding from legislation like the American Rescue Plan, the Bipartisan Infrastructure Law, and the Inflation Reduction Act. Our firm takes a team-oriented, full-service approach, which has helped us develop very successful multi-year advocacy campaigns on behalf of our clients' federal priorities. We're proactive. One important lesson that both Shannon and I have learned from working for members of Congress is the importance of being proactive. So that means whether it's meeting with a federal agency staff prior to the release of a grant to gain insight into their priorities for that year, or checking in with a congressional staffer about legislation they're drafting for our clients, anticipate questions they can expect prior to a meeting with their members of Congress. Our ability to keep our clients really one step ahead of the curve is critical for their success here at the federal level. It's this proactive nature that has helped our clients secure federal grant awards from agencies like the Environmental Protection Agency, the Bureau of Reclamation, as well as the Federal Emergency Management Agency. We provide both tailored and timely communication. We really believe that communication is the key to successful implementation of your federal advocacy goals. So when it comes to how we communicate with our clients, we really pride ourselves that it is not only tailored to each client's specific need, but it's also timely. So we don't ever send our clients, or news articles. Our communication with our clients is always tailored to their specific issues and not only provides them with the information they need, but also includes both our analysis as well as our recommendations for potential action. Our clients expect a high level of specialized tailored service from us day in and day out, and we really want to strive to not just meet those expectations, but exceed them. And lastly, we live our firm motto of personal touch, impressive results. So for us, this really is more than a motto. It's the reason that Shannon and I came to join Carpy and Clay. We really wanted to be a part of a firm that recognized that each client is as unique as the strategies that we develop and implement for them. We wanted to work with colleagues who know that the only way to get results in Washington is really to roll up your sleeves and dig into those details. We wanted to be part of a team that believes that going the extra mile for our clients is really more than just a tagline, but it's who we are, it's in our DNA. And so with that, we appreciate the opportunity to be with you this evening, and we look forward to answering your questions.
All right, great. Thank you so much. So the first question is, what specific experience does your firm have in lobbying for water districts at the federal level?
Sure. So our firm has really decades of experience working on behalf of water and wastewater agencies, and almost all of them are specifically located in California. So currently, our firm represents several water and wastewater utilities throughout California, including Mission Springs Water District, the Inland Empire Utilities Agency, and Monterey One Water. It's these, decades of experience that have led us to having such a strong record of accomplishment on behalf of our water district clients. So we talked a little bit earlier about community project requests and how over the last couple of years, we've helped secure tens of millions of dollars in these federal community project requests for our clients, which include our water and wastewater utilities. We've also helped our water and wastewater clients secure funding from agencies like the Bureau of Reclamation's various Water Smart programs, including the Title 16 program and the large-scale Title 16 program. Additionally, through the Environmental Protection Agency with programs like WIFIA, the Department of FEMA with the newly created BRIC program. On the authorization side, we've worked to help clients secure project authorization from the Army Corps of Engineers in the Water Resources Development Act. And then switching a bit to the policy and legislative side, just to give you a sense of some of the issues that have been involved in or are currently working on for our water district clients. A few in particular, one, we've been involved in the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee's efforts to draft bipartisan legislation to address PFAS. We're also working to advocate for legislation that would reauthorize the Low-Income Housing Water Assistance Program, LIWAP, which was created in the American Rescue Plan. And then additionally, prior to joining Carpy and Clay, I worked for another lobbying firm in town where I also worked on behalf of water and wastewater entities. And one of the efforts that I was a part of during my time at that firm was related to the WIN Act of 2016 and pushing to create that competitive Title 16 program at the Bureau of Reclamation. So we really feel that we bring, a very strong background in California water issues, as well as decades of experience and corresponding successes.
Okay, thank you. Director Garcia.
Good evening. My question is, how do you plan to address potential disparities in water access and quality, particularly in marginalized communities?
Yeah, this is a great and really timely question, particularly for both the Biden administration as well as your delegation. I'll talk a little bit first about the administration. The Biden administration, throughout their first term, their focus has truly been on the issues of equity and diversity. We have seen this in ways about how they're making grant decisions. For example, the administration-wide is still making decisions using this Justice 40 initiative, agencies like EPA and the Bureau of Reclamation. So one of the things that we have helped some of our clients do is to make sure that when they're looking at potential projects to be thinking about How does it address equity? How does it address affordability? Because we know these are such issues of primary focus. And really, we see that there are grant decisions by the agency being made based on these factors. And then again, switching over to Capitol Hill, Senator Alex Padilla, who now finds himself serving as the senior, he is well positioned on now not one, but two different committees in the Senate to help address water affordability, which his staff has, really made clear is such a top priority for the senator. He now sits on the Senate he currently sits on the Senate Environment and Public Works Committee, which oversees the Army Corps and the EPA. And recently he was added to the Senate Energy and Natural Resources Committee, which oversees the Bureau. So he is truly in a great position to push forward and try and get some real change and focus and attention on water affordability issues. And one of the things that we can do based on our relationships with his staff, as well as with decision makers in the agencies, is ensure that West Valley Water District is well positioned to be part of that discussion about how to better address these issues, particularly as it relates to water affordability.
Thank you for that.
Okay, Vice President Jenkins.
Laura, thank you for attending. And my question is, what strategies do you implement for educating lawmakers about the importance of the Water District's projects?
Thank you so much for that question. I think we have a number of strategies, but one of the things that we do is sort of take a couple of big steps. The first thing is really to start at home. We can help nurture your existing relationships and establish new ones where necessary. We already have very strong working relationships with both Representative Torres, Representative Aguilar, as well as Senators Padilla and Butler. And we are confident in our ability to help not only enhance your work here, but strengthen it, make sure they really understand the true nature and critical nature of your projects. In addition, we have helped other firm clients secure federal assistance and funding through just helping them strengthen these relationships. On top of that, we have a very strong network throughout Capitol Hill beyond your delegation. So both within the California delegation and key committees, different state delegations that are interested in these same topics that you are, and other key Hill offices. We'll be sure to take that reach and our connections we have and overlay those with both relationships you already have, as well as new relationships for you to ensure that your chances of success go up. And it's not just helping to strengthen and expand your relationships, but we also help to work and will assist you with story development for a range of federal offices. Success in DC often means telling your story over and over again. And as you all probably know, congressional meetings in DC often only last about 15 to 20 minutes, which means your story needs to be concise, relatable, and relevant. And we will help ensure that your projects can be told and the stories and the critical nature of those things can be told in that 15 to 20 minutes. And we'll also make sure that it's flexible for a range of audiences, regardless of their knowledge of water issues, whether they're very into them, understand them, or whether they're new. For example, the average age of a congressional aide is 25, and they have the responsibility of covering several issues beyond just water. So we will make sure that your story is one that sticks out for them. Laura and I have worked for over 40 years combined as federal advocates, and we have firsthand knowledge of what messages resonate with key members of Congress. And we will also serve as translators, not only in those meetings to help you tell stories, but also to make sure that you're understanding the subtle messages that might be being communicated both by members, but also Hill staff. And then we will work with you on the best ways to help respond to those things to increase your chances of success.
Thank you.
Okay. Director Moore.
Good evening.
Good evening.
What steps will you take to build a diverse coalition of supporters for the Water District's DEI initiatives?
Yeah, we really appreciate that question. You know, Carpy and Clay has a very strong commitment to furthering diversity and inclusion in our field. We believe that diversity is not only a source of strength, but also a means to produce, you know, more innovative and more responsive services for our clients. Our firm actually has a strong diversity policy in place, something that is often rare, particularly for a small business in the federal lobbying field. But on top of that, our proposed team for West Valley Water District also represents this commitment and focus in a couple of ways. The first is female leadership. As you can see, our team is female-led. Females are are a very underrepresented demographic in the federal lobbying space, and we really believe that this provides us with a distinct perspective and helps us foster inclusivity and promote equity in both our strategies as well as our approach. And also minority representation. So half of our proposed team proudly identifies as Native American. We really believe that this representation is integral to our firm's identity. It really helps drive our commitment to understanding and championing the concerns of all minority groups. So for both Shannon and I, you know, our commitment to diversity and inclusion is both personal and professional. And we will use this personal passion to help further the diversity, equity, and inclusion initiatives of West Valley Water District, as well as your goals and objectives. We can also help you look for opportunities here in DC to raise your profile and to really demonstrate what you all are looking to do in the DEI space. As we touched on a little bit earlier in one of the questions, this is something that we are continuing to see be of interest with both decision makers in the federal agencies as well as your congressional delegation.
Thank you very much.
All right. All right. How do you adapt your lobbying strategies to changes in political landscapes or priorities?
Sure. So we've talked a little bit tonight about our long history and work with public agencies and our ability to be successful on their behalf. And in order for us to do that, one of the skills we had to learn very early on is how to be able to be successful and really work with both sides of the aisle. If you look at the last really 10 to 15 years here in DC, we are seeing power change much more frequently, right? I think gone are the days where the House is going to be controlled by the same party for decades at a time. And so as such, we have had to, you know, learn and grow and adapt very quickly to make sure that we are positioning our clients so that they can be successful regardless of which party is in power. And we do that by a couple of ways. You know, one is our firm is bipartisan in nature. If you look at the other members of our team, we have both Democrats and Republicans represented in our firm. But we also take this bipartisan approach. And I think we are able to do that uniquely because of our work with public entities. You know, the work that you all do as a water utility and providing a basic service to your customers, there's no partisan issues in how you do that. And so we're really able to help our public agency clients make sure that they are able to work with and find success with whomever is in power. And really the other piece of that, and Shannon talked a little bit about this earlier, is how we help our clients frame an issue. And I can give you sort of a very quick example is years ago, I worked for a water agency that had two House members. One was a Democrat and one was a Republican. We had the same project, the same need. We took it to both members' offices. In one office, we talked about the strong environmental benefits of the project, and in the other, we talked about the strong and because we were able to frame the same project in slightly different ways that we knew would fit our audience, we were able to find success by having both members actually join together to support our request.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And then to wrap it up with a 5-minute wrap up, why should West Valley Water District select your firm?
Sure. So, you know, in a brief closing, again, we really appreciate the opportunity to be with you and to be with you virtually this evening. Shannon and I, you know, we really hope that our time with you has given you a better sense of who we are and why we think that West Valley Water District should select us. Our comprehensive, full-service, proactive approach has really helped our clients find success here at the federal level, and we are very confident that this approach would greatly benefit West Valley Water District. We know that we would bring a fresh perspective and a new energy to your federal advocacy efforts. We're confident that our unique principles-only approach that we discussed would yield direct benefits for West Valley Water District. We know that our deep backgrounds, our strong experience, and our unique approach would make us a great fit to work on your behalf at the federal level and would really allow us to be ready to hit the ground running on day one.
All right, great. Thank you so much, Laura and Shannon. Thank you so much for joining us this evening and for your presentations.
Thank you.
Okay. All right, Laura, we can kind of tally that up. All right, so while the board is finishing up that, I'll just, on behalf of my colleagues up here, I just want to thank all the firms for participating tonight. This is a very important decision for the district. A lot really rides on it, and we do appreciate everybody's time and interest in working with the district. It's not necessarily an easy decision. I think all the firms presented very, very good presentations about their strengths. I think it'll now be up to the board to decide our path forward, but regardless, I just want to thank all the participants, and we do appreciate your interest, and thank you very much, really. So, board, it's now our time. So I think we have a lot to consider here. So I'll open it up for any discussion that the board may want to discuss as far as which of these three firms we would like to either continue with or change to, I guess, is kind of the way to look at it, as one of them is our current lobbyist. So would anybody have any thoughts that they would like to discuss? Or general feelings about the candidates?
I would. First, I'd like to say I've been very impressed with the lobbyists who've have arrived here this evening. It's a difficult decision, I can say, too. Things that stood out that Turchin Associates have been here such a while and haven't raised rates, and I think that's also something to be said for so many years and the return they've given to us.
Anything else?
Yes, I agree. Also, too, with the service that we get when we do go up to meet the people up at the Capitol, that they're there with us and pick us up and take us where we need to go and make sure those meetings go smoothly. Even when there's other workshops going, we're able to do the workshops and go see the people that we have to see. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, I'd like to thank all of the firms who have participated this evening. I know it was a arduous process. Basically, this is the third round of interview because they had an external panel, then an internal panel, or was it external then internal?
We had two panels.
Right, right. And then you get to meet with all of us and preparing yourselves for interview and going out and doing what you do. And doing your job every day and going out and trying to get and communicate with new clients. I know it's a challenging balancing act to be able to do that. And so we appreciate everyone for taking the time. I do like all the answers that the agencies have provided. And I do like the different leadership that we got to see today, and seeing, the firms having women and persons of color who were a part of the presentation and having active roles. And it's good because I spent time in Washington, D.C. and in Sacramento, worked for my hometown congressman here. And then in the Obama administration, I think I did a little bit in the USDA, Office of Civil Rights. So it's good to see people who come from different areas being a part and taking leadership in at least in Sacramento is known as the Fourth House, and then in D.C. the K Street lobbying. Folks that really get the money. I left too early. However, I think that one of the things that I saw demonstrate clear understanding by Turchin Associates of the history of our agency. And, it's better, I would say, even though everybody did a great job, I'm going to stick with the person that I know and who has delivered results. I think if we didn't have a firm who had demonstrated time and time again their ability to understand the complexities of our region as well as our delegation, and the responsiveness that we've had from Turchin Associates, I would be very persuaded to go with one of the other firms. But just what I've experienced over the years, if we've had a question, I know Jamie and David have called themselves. They're very responsive. They've always delivered their reports on time. When we have attended Aqua and our other visits, they always make sure that we have additional meetings scheduled, pick us up from the airport, make sure our briefing documents are in order, reviewed in advance, and then ultimately make sure that we have access with our members both in DC and here in the district. So at this point in time, I do appreciate what everyone has done, but it's very hard for me. They definitely, the other two firms made it very difficult to kind of arrive at where I am. But, I think what they say, I think it's dance with the, what is it? It's old school. David probably knows how the saying goes.
You dance with the one who brought you?
Dance with the one that brought you. There you go. And so we're in that kind of situation.
Okay. Angie, you have any?
Yes, so as the chairwoman to the External Affairs and Legislative, I wanted to bring this RFP process so that we can all have an opportunity to take a look at it and know what's out there and make sure that the services that we're getting are, up to par with what other agencies are doing. Not because we weren't happy with what the services we were getting, but just to make it a fair process. Mm-hmm. And be transparent. The services that we have been getting have been, we get what we're supposed to be getting. We get our reports, we get our advocacy, and we get everything, that we're supposed to, all the meetings that we need when we go to DC or Aqua. Now, the other candidates that applied, I'm very impressed. I'm very impressed by the leadership. We got diversity. They came from Washington, and I really appreciate that, and I'm very impressed. And I'm very happy that you have women both as a vice president and as the ones that would be representing us. But as the board mentioned, also board members, I'm happy with who we have right now as well. So that would be my motion.
Well, if I could just make a quick comment, then you can make your motion. I would just maybe echo some of the feelings. All three candidates bring a lot to the table. I think in many ways this conversation would be quite a different one if we did differently, and this was completely open. And I think it's always hard to compete when there's an existing lobbyist that has been doing well. And I think we all agree that Tersh and Associates has been doing well for us. But I mean, I will say I was very impressed by Townsend Associates and Capri and Clay. But I kind of agree with the rest of my colleagues here that I think that we're in a good spot. Tersh and Associates has done well for us over these past 4 years. This is now the second time I've seen us go through this process, and I know we were, before we brought in Mr. Tersh and his company, we had another company, and they did well for us too, but we just kind of felt like we just needed to up our game at the time, and so we did make a change then. And honestly, I have never regretted making that change in the last 4 years because of the service which your firm has provided to us and the wonderful job that Jamie's done. And again, nothing to take away from the other candidates. Again, I think you all provided a lot to think about. I definitely like certain aspects of each of the firms. And again, I think it'd be a much different conversation if this was something where we hadn't had a lobbyist, or maybe, you know, the current lobbyist wasn't even considered, you know, and this was a truly, I think, even race in that sense. So I do share my colleagues' feelings on that, but I did want to just stress my appreciation to the firms, and I know one of them is also applying for our state lobbyist, so maybe we'll have some more discussion there. But again, thank you so much, and I will entertain that motion now. So thank you, Director Garcia, for indulging me. If you want to make a motion.
So I motion to what is the motion, to retain or
Could I provide a proposed
suggestion? Yeah.
Board motion to authorize staff to negotiate a contract with Tersh and Associates for the district's federal lobbying services?
Yeah, that one.
Okay.
I second that motion.
All right, we have a first and a second.
Yeah, first and second, no questions.
Okay, all right.
All right.
Okay, any further discussion on the motion? All right.
All clear?
Call the roll.
All right.
Yes, thank you. Director Hawkins,
Yes.
Director Moore,
Yes.
Director Garcia,
Yes.
Vice President Jenkins,
Yes.
President Young.
Yes.
That passes 5-0. Thank you.
All right, and again, thank you for everybody for attending this evening. So we do have one other item. I think it's just a quick discussion item, Mr. General Manager.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. President. I think the board is aware of the Aqua DC trip coming up at the end of February. Board's also aware that the House offices will be in recess that week. Their staff will still be there. So that's something to consider, and the Senate delegation will remain there along with their staff, and of course the executive staff, the agency staff will be in DC as well. So, but with our legislators being gone for that week, and some of them and coming back home, in fact, the board may wish to change their DC plans. Maybe you want to go to DC anyway and meet with staff or set up a meeting later when they're all in session.
And I believe that the Senate is still there. It's on the side. So board, so we did ask to kind of put this on for tonight so that we could discuss it as a board if need be. I'm thinking that I'll probably still go just because it's a better time of the year for myself, because to go later in either March or April is a little problematic because of some conferences that I need to attend to for the hospital. But certainly board, you know, if you want to go now, that's perfectly fine. If you want to wait and maybe do a second trip later on in the spring, you can do that as well. Another suggestion I think I was talking to John and maybe Socorro about was that we could even tag team it. Some of us, if you want to go to DC, we can go to DC, meet with who we can back there, and if someone wants to stay here and go maybe with Socorro or whoever to meet with maybe the Congress folks here. We could also try to do that, kind of hit them on both coasts at the same time. But really, we just wanted an opportunity to see if anyone had any strong feelings one way or another. But the conference is still going on. It's just, again, the House won't actually be there. So, anybody have any thoughts or issues? with
For
that?
myself, I think I'll stay in California
Okay.
instead of traveling to DC.
Yeah,
They're
I'm
gonna
going
go?
to DC too.
Okay.
See you in DC.
All right. So, looks
Okay. Yeah, so if you do decide to go to DC, I do have options for flights
Okay.
and options for when you want to leave, when you come back, so we can go into the conference room right now. You guys check off when you want to go. I'll take care of your arrangements tomorrow or sometime during the weekend. Your hotels are already booked. You've all been registered, so there's no issue with that. I just need to make sure that we can get you out there in the time frame that you want to get out there.
It's the end of February, right?
Correct, yes.
Okay.
So you'd be arriving on the 25th, the day before, on that 25th, and coming back either that Thursday or that Friday.
Okay.
So I have options for you for flights, and if you'd like, we can, head over after the meeting and get that all straightened out.